Hello everyone, welcome to Embedded Systems course with Arduino. So in today's session, we are going to interface LEDs, which are light emitting diodes, through switches to Arduino. In previous sessions, we have directly interfaced LEDs to Arduino, but now we are going to introduce a switch in between which controls the on and off of this light emitting diodes, right? So let's begin. So in general, what we will take a single LED. Okay, so we will take this LED and we'll connect through a switch to Arduino. Now this switch, right, you will have of two types. Okay, so there are two types of switches in generally available in Tinkercad. So first is what? First is the push button. Okay, so first is our push button and second is the slide switch. Okay, so these are the two types of switches which are generally available in Tinkercad, and we will design circuits using both of them. Okay, so now what is push button? So in general, you know that the symbol of a switch is like this, right? So this is in general, you will have single pole, right? And you'll have a single throw. So once we connect this switch like this, right? So the circuit is connected, right? And the current will flow, right? So there is one input pole and there is one single throw to connect the on and off condition so that the circuit completes. So this is our push button in general, right? It's a simple switch. Now what is a slide switch? So slide switch has single pole but double throw. So what it means is it is something like this. Okay, so it is something like this. So here you will have your single pole, then you will have one pole here. Okay, so single pole, double throw. Now what you do is you can either connect to this, right? You can either connect to this or you can have this connection, right? So this is the input pole for you. This is the input pole, and we can either connect to 5 volts or we will have one connection at 0 volts. So your circuit will complete accordingly, right? So this is what? This is single pole, single input pole, right? And double throw. Uh, right? This is your double throw switch, right? So now for this experiment, right? What are things we are going to need? So let's see that. So of course we will need the first component for us will be Arduino for sure, right? Arduino Uno R3. Second is our breadboard, right? Now third is what? Third we will need these switches, right? Fourth is very simple, is our LED, right? The peripheral which you are going to connect. And five is general, of course, a breadboard, right? And sixth is what? Sixth is a resistor. So these are the components which we are going to need in this experiment, right? So now let's also see what are the input functions which we are going to need. We have already discussed this in our first session itself, right? So digital read is what? You provide the pin number, right? 2 to 13 you can provide. These are all digital pins which can be converted into input and output, and that can be done through this. You provide the pin and you provide the whether it's an input or output, right? Whether what is the mode, right? And then you can, of course, once you provide an output, right, you can provide the pin and the value, so whether it's high or it's low, right? So these three things, simple LED functions which we used in our very first session, we are going to use in this session as well, right? So I think let's move over to Tinkercad and start building these circuits, right? So simply we'll go and create a circuit design for us. We'll choose circuit, right? We'll click on create, choose circuits, right? So first we will take a push button, okay? Push button example, and try to create interface an LED through a push button to an Arduino, right? So let's start. It's loading, let it load. So now it's loaded, right? You can see this, correct? So now what we have done, we have taken an Arduino, right? We have taken a breadboard, all these components you can search. Now I want to show you like LED also you can take, but switches, if you click on search for switch, right? You have two options, right? If you click on switch, you will have two options. If you see push button and a slide switch, right? So here we have taken this push button, right? If you see this, we have taken this push button here. Now let's start connecting our circuit, right? So as always, we will provide this breadboard with the power supplies. So what we do, we take a ground, this black wire, right? We provide this to the negative row here, bottom row, and connect this negative row here as well on the top row. Now all these, this row and this row, right, are at 0 volts, right, ground. Now we take this red wire, right, from the power pin of 5 volts, right, connect this to this plus row, right? So this is at 5 volts, this is also at 5 volts, as we do in all our circuits, right? Now what we do, now let's connect the LED first, right? So LED is our output, right? So we will take, let's say we'll take pin 13 to drive the output. To drive, we'll configure this pin 13 as an output and drive the high and low, right, based on the switch condition to light this LED. Whether the LED is on and off will depend on what is read from the switch. So switch is an input, right? We will read from the switch like whether it is on and off, right? If you press this, it's an on condition, right? So that it should read as 1, right? And based on that one, based on that true condition that the switch has been pressed, we will light this LED. That is our simple logic of the code. But now let's connect this LED first, right? So we have taken a resistor, we connect this to the negative port, negative 0 volts here, right? And we said we'll take pin 13, right, and configure it is an as an output and drive the LED. So let's connect this, right? So now this is connected, right? But now if you just do using this circuit will always be connected to an LED Arduino, but it is not interfacing still through a switch, right? So what we do now, how to connect this switch? So this switch is very I told you single pole, single output, right? So you provide this 5 volts to this port right here. Now this is at 5 volts. Now through a resistor I connect, what I will do is I will read, I have connected this negative here, you see, and I will read this from the second port. So second port I will be configured as an input to read the switch condition whether it is on and off. Based on that condition, I drive the pin 13. Read from pin 2 and drive on pin 13. Simple. Okay. So this is how we have connected one part of this one pole of the switch, right, to the 5 volts and other to a 0 volt, and in between I read it from there what is the condition of the switch, right? So now this is the circuit is complete, right? Only two connections, the LED and the switch. Now let's see our code, what we did, right? Let's do one thing, we are configuring our pin 2, right? What is pin 2? Pin 2 is the port which is configured as an input to read the switch. So I have configured it as an input. Pin mode function, which I told you, pin number 2, and it is configured as an input. Now pin mode 3, pin mode 13, right? Pin mode 13 is the one where I am connecting the LED. So pin mode 13 I have connected as an output. And I told you this has to go as a one-time setup, right? So this is our initialization, and initialization always happens in this function void setup, right? So we did this. Now we want to repeat this, right? So whatever code next, right, has to go inside the loop, right? So I take any variable where I take the output of this whatever is read into that variable, right? So to read the digital pins, I use the digital read function, right? Pin number 2, This is the pin number 2 which is configured as an input, and I will read the condition of the switch. So I am reading this digital read pin 2 into a variable read val, right? Now what I said, if the if the switch is pressed, so pressed means the circuit is completed, the switch is connected. So if it is high, right, I will write 1 to this digital output pin 13, right, and drive this LED so that the LED circuit completes 5, and the circuit will complete and it will start lighting up, right? Similarly, if it is low, if the read value is low, then I will write low to this, right, and just move ahead, right? It will not light up, it will be off, right? So, and I'll put a delay of 15, and then this will keep on happening, right? So let's start the simulation. Okay, now the power is provided to the Arduino, right? The breadboard has its power supplies also. Now let's press this switch. See, I'm pressing and lifting up, right? Now if I press it for a long time, I'm pressing it for a long time, my mouse is not released, right? So it's always on, right? Because the switch is connected, the power supply is being given to the LED of 5 volts, right? Pin 13 is getting driven to 5 volts, and the LED is on. If I remove it now, it's off, right? So this is a simple way to connect through a push button, how we interface an LED to Arduino, right? Earlier LED was directly connected, so we just had a delay. There was no if condition. So if condition is now used because we have a switch introduced. We read the condition of the switch, the push button, and based on that we drive the output of the pin 13 which is connected to the LED, right? And this is that logic, right? So now let's stop this, right? So I hope this circuit is clear. Now in this next, let's move to the next circuit, right? So in this next circuit, what we do, we take a slide switch. Earlier we had taken a push button. Now we are taking a slide switch. Right? So as I told you, you can search the switch from the components tab here. And if you search on switch, you will get this slide switch, which you can pull this off, right? I already have it. So now I will just remove this, right? So I have taken an LED. We have taken resistors, right? One for the LED, one for the switch to avoid, spurious power supplies or any spurious current, which can break these LEDs or the switches, right? And simply now we connect the breadboard, take the ground, take the 5 volts, connect the plus row and the minus row accordingly, right, from 5 and ground, so that the breadboard is connected, right? Similarly on this row, right? Now I think the LED connection is always clear to you, right? So now what we do, let's connect. So similarly here also, let's output the LED from pin 13. Let's configure pin 13 as an output and drive the values. Okay, so let's connect the one anode, right? Cathode is connected to negative. Let's drive this from pin 13, right? The resistor is connected. Now in this I told you there is one input pole, right? So the middle one is the input pole which is used to read, right? So I will read on pin 2 again, right? I will configure this as an output and read from it. Now what I will do, I will first connect this here. So the circuit is complete, right? This is connected to this. These are all I'll be reading from this middle, right? And I connect uh, you know resistor to it to avoid any high current or anything like that which breaks the switch. Now I told you one port of this, right? One plus terminal of this switch is connected to a 5 volt, and other terminal is connected to 0 volts, and whichever the pole throws it, right, it's a double throw. So either you throw it to 5 volts or you throw it to 0 volts, right? So now here it is in current, in default condition it is an on, right? So if you just make sure you read it on and you supply the power supply, it will be on, right? So by default it will be on. To make it off, you need to put a 0 volt supply, right? So that it drives accordingly 0 and the LED will be off, right? So now this is what the simple logic is. Basically the difference is in connection. right? So here basically there is single input pole, right? But it's a double throw, like either it can connect here, it can connect here. It was not like a push button, only one side it's connect, and if you remove it, it's disconnects, right? So single pole double throw switch, right? So similarly what I have done, right, take a LED which is connected to 13, right? This is a switch which is connected to pin 2 as an input. One time setup initialization, I do it inside the setup function, connecting the LED, making the LED pin 13 as an output, right? Pin mode LED 13, right? Then taking the pin 13 of the digital pin, right, 2, and configuring as an input. Now so what I have taken, now I have taken a as a boolean variable, right? I read the pin 2 because pin 2 is my condition of the switch. I am reading the pin 2, right, from this pole of the switch, right? And if the pin value is high, right, if it is connected to 5 volt side of the switch, right, you drive LED high, you light up the LED, else you drive it to low. That's it. Same condition, same logic what we have written, right? Only the connection was different in a slide switch as compared to push button, right? So let's start this simulation. See, now this is in default on condition, right? 5 volts is connected, right? Now I will push this here, right? So the switch has moved, the pole has driven to 0 volts and it's off. Again, I'm clicking on this, the switch has moved to the on side and it's on, right? On, off, like this, right? So this is how the connection is for switches. So there are two types of switches, push buttons and slide switches, which we saw, right? So in general, on your hardware also, you will get these type of switches, physical hardware, and you can connect it in the same way, right? There is hardly any difference you will feel, right? When you actually apply this on a physical Arduino and take all these physical components in real time, right? So this is the circuit, and I hope you understood the point. And basically the difference was in connections of push button and the slide switches, how they were connected because of different number of poles. Otherwise the code remains the same, right? You read from the switch and drive the LED output pin, right? So that is how it is. Thank you for your time.